Before we start today, we have JPSS consultancy firm coming over. Yes, that you all heard it right, JPSS consultancy firm. But before I call them and speak to the agents on one-on-one basis about the case that they have taken on Hyperion Mining Services, HMS, I would like to give you all a background detail about the case, what's been happening, what's not happening, what are the issues involved, and so that we are all on the same page. Coming to the presentation agenda, the background of case study would be strategic management issues, redundancy issues, and organizational behavioral issues. So, talking about the literature review part, there are three main issues involved: management issues, staff morale, and redundancy. So, management issues. Now, talking about management issues, as per the case study, they were in the construction industry, which then went to operational basis. Now, let's know some facts about construction industry. Construction industry is based on knowledge sharing and limited innovation scope. However, in order for a person in the construction industry to gather information about technology or other information, it is dependent on other industry bases. For example, IT firm, if you want to know something about IT related to construction industry, you need to understand the IT based on the IT industry, and then the knowledge is taken forward to construction industry. Whereas in operation industry, in area of management related to control areas of products and goods. So we all know example of Antarctica's safety health management issue system in taken over in 1998. The country has had a contract with the National Science Foundation carrying its operation as USAP, that is US Arctic Program. Antarctica is claimed to be one dry region with 98% ice. We all know about it, and that's the reason why they have taken over the construction to operational basis. Coming to staff morale, this is also another major issues in organization that we face today. In fact, this is one of the most common issues that most of the organization face today. One of them is morale. Now, talking about the morale, it is a sentimental reaction of an individual based on their particular job. So it can be either a low morale or high morale. This is dependent on the HR manager's performance towards the employees. So, in case of low morale, there are certain consequences which an employee faces. One of them is trauma, irritation, helpless behavior, and whereas in case of high morale, the feelings of achievement, feeling of being accepted and being valued are one of the key reasons which an employee faces in an organization, and that helps them to reach a point where they can achieve organizational goal up to their full potential. Coming to the safety part, this is also another major issue faced by the organization which they lack of. This is the safety safety factor involved in an organization. It could be related to bullying, it could be related to job security issues which an employee might face. That is linked to the second part, that is survival syndrome. Survival syndrome is basically a feeling of an employee, an insecure feeling to be specific, of an employee that they face in order to towards their job, that they may not and they may lose their job at a certain point in time, and this happens due to organization downsizing, delayering, and restructuring. Then coming to the workplace incivility part. This is a very interesting topic which most of the organizations are facing today. Workplace incivility. Workplace incivility, it's a incivil behavior, or to be put it, a rude, abrupt behavior of an employee or an individual towards another employee. It could be on direct basis, one-on-one basis, or through a medium. So we name them as interpersonal incivility. Interpersonal civility is when an employee is rude or not in the best of relationship with another employee, and it creates a very incivil behavior towards each other. It's interpersonal incivility. Cyber incivility is when an employee uses a medium of computer or internet or any of these activities through a medium and sends rude emails, vulgar messages, vulgar text, creating a impact of incivil behavior towards another employee. And victimless incivility, that's the third one. Now, victimless incivility may not be a direct incivil behavior towards the other employee, but it definitely leaves an impact through an indirect source. Now, coming to the third major issue, that is redundancy issue. Let me tell you all, redundancy is a very, very common issue in today's time. Australia, being a country, is a very big example for the redundancy issue that's been happening. To give you all a brief detail about definition about redundancy, I would like to tell you an organization which does not need a particular job position. So the employers come in and they close these job positions and lay off the employees, telling them that this position is no longer required. In today's time, if an organization wants to do it in this particular way, they need to have a particular interaction, or they need to have a process with the employees who are to be laid off. If failed to do so, a government can impose certain charges on this particular organization based on the act that has been developed over time to secure the employees. However, so employers now follow a particular process to towards this redundancy. It's called the redundancy process, and it's done so that the employers tell the employees exactly what they are planning to do. Employers are obligated to inform the employees well in advance in a situation of redundancy. Different countries follow different laws of redundancy, but however, taking Australia as an example, they're supposed to know, they're supposed to give well-informed advance information to employees relating to redundancy issues and how are they to be paid off and what are the consequences that are going to happen. And to be specific, giving an example of New Zealand Airline mass redundancy. As per New Zealand Airline, a majority of individuals were reduced and they were asked to leave the organization due to lack of manpower required and the job positions which had which the airline no longer required over time. So coming down to management issues, now I would like to call the agents of consultancy firm who have who are going to tell us about the particular issues involved in each of the management, taking HMS as a case that they have taken in their hand, and tell us what are the strategies and implementation of those strategies, how are they going to implement it to solve this particular issue. Okay, so right now I would like to welcome our very first guest from JPSS consultancy firm who will be talking to us about the management issues. So please welcome Pranata Welson.
Okay, thanks for having me here, Jiten.
No problem, Pranata, it's my pleasure. So Pranata, what are the major management issues that you find within the organization of HMS?
Talking about the management issue, I found that currently that HMS is dealing with three management issues. Okay. The first is by the decline in their business activity. As we can see that HMS is directly affected by the fall in investment and construction in the mining industry itself. The second problem itself is regarding about the high number of competition within the Western Australia market itself. Okay. It is harder for HMS to work in a very competitive market, especially in Western Australia. The third problem is regarding about their over-reliance on the Western Australia market itself. Most of their activity and probably all of their activity are mostly done only within the Western Australia itself.
Oh, okay. So based on these issues, what do you think are the strategies that HMS should take in order to solve the particular problem?
Okay, first and foremost, the issue regarding the decline in mining service company, it is better that for HMS to do a related diversification strategy by devising their strategy into operation. So the reason is because most of the surface mining company in Australia itself are already devising their business into a related and unrelated diversification. For example, government project, infrastructure, utilities, and others. And the reason is that it's to expose the broader market trend. In the case of HMS, the number of the projects are now moving into operational phase. So it is a logical strategy for SNFs to follow the trend by devising their operation into a service in which the market are now in position.
Right, Pranata. So what do you, can I ask you this question, how would you develop the strategy for HMS in this competitive market?
Okay, so in a highly competitive market such as mining service industry, there's a need for company to differentiate themselves.
Right.
And one of the ways that for company to differentiate themselves is to do a differentiation strategy.
Okay.
According to the studies, that differentiation strategy can help the company to compete better over the competitor and gain the competitive advantage.
Okay.
And so the company should adopt based on the three generic strategy, which is cost leadership, differentiation, and integration.
Okay.
And what I think that the best strategy for the company is that they need to focus on the differentiation strategy by improving their quality of service, so they can get a better competitive advantage over their competitor. And and for the last problem is that their over reliance on the Western Australian market.
Yeah.
I think that they need to devise their customer and expand their business geographically, or either geographically or abroad. So
you mean expand the market? That's what you mean.
Yeah.
Okay.
Expand the market. So
okay.
From there they are able to because now the problem is that most of the customer, 46% of the client are export to the China itself. They need to find other country or other client which are not from China, and from there they
may globalize to other countries. Okay.
They can also expand their business into where the mining is booming right now.
Oh wow, fantastic. Okay, Pranata. So I would like to ask you, how would you implement these strategies in today's time?
Okay, so to implement this strategy, so basically the first strategy is about HMS can create and develop a new division to handle the operation and service and decrease the reliance on the construction itself. This strategy will benefit the company itself in reducing the number of employees being redundant in the company by moving them and just shift them into giving them a new job. And secondly, in order to improve the quality of service that I said before, the company can do a training and development, which we explained further by my colleague. And SMS can also do outsourcing by getting employee from getting labor from other countries such as India, which the potential of the labor is now quite high, and the number of the education level is increasing. And lastly, in order to expand abroad, the company can do a merger and acquisition. The merger and acquisition,
like a joint venture.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's basically the same. And it's needed for the company in order to survive in the competitive market. And HMS can do a merger and acquisition in order to expand their business into other region and help the company to enter existing or a new market.
Okay. I see. So Pranata, can you tell me the risk assessment involved in implementing this particular strategy?
Okay. After deep analysis, I found that doing related diversification and unrelated diversification can create high level of stress in the company.
Okay.
This may happen because after the redundancy, some of the employee might have more work, which they are expected to do more work because they are needed to do more than one job. This also can affect the company in terms of their productivity and the performance itself. And lastly, doing the merger and acquisition is not simple. It requires the company time, effort, and money. And right now, I don't think that HMS have the time, effort, and money to do the merger and acquisition. The strategy of this merger and acquisition can be developed in the long run.
Oh, so you're focused on the long run perspective.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Pranata, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, and thank you for answering all the questions.
Thank you, Jiten.
Okay, so today our second guest for today is Stacy Barin. She'll be talking to us about the redundancy topic. So please welcome Stacy. Yeah. Right. So Stacy, we all heard Pranata what he said. Now my question to you would be, what do you think about the redundancy when it comes to HMS? Is it a genuine redundancy or not?
Okay, it is certain that the HMS case is a genuine redundancy because the downsizing is caused by organizational change and also inevitable shifts in the business environment. Right. It is only natural for HMS to deploy a transitional strategy, moving away from construction into operational phase.
Okay.
And so this reason is accepted as a genuine redundancy, and it is in accordance with the definition established by the Fair Work Act 2009, which stated that the person's job is no longer needed to be done by anyone.
Okay.
And this table, it
Right.
includes some of the most generic causes and effects of downsizing.
Sorry to interrupt, Stacy. Downsizing and redundancy, is it somewhat similar? Or
Yes,
is
it
there
is the same. It's just two different words. Yeah.
Okay.
And in relation to the case, the economic environment is shifting very rapidly in Australia, and the most noticeable consequences are, of course, the low employee morale, low
Right.
productivity, and also a sense of workplace instability and bullying that will be further explained by Stephanie.
Okay. Right, Stacy. So how would you recommend HMS to implement this particular strategy?
Okay, there are several steps in the process of redundancy that is also commissioned by the Fair Work Act.
Right.
So the first step that HMS needs to do is to conduct consultation and redeployment. This means notifying employees on current situations and what they can expect to happen. For example, HMS would need to write a termination notice letter. And the underlying objective here is to have an active and effective communication, both from the employer side to the victims and survivors of the redundancy process. And the prior notice should include why the redundancy takes place and address it properly, personally to the group of the laid off workers. And then the second stage is to decide who gets to say and who does not, keeping in mind the transitional phase happening in HMS.
Okay.
Then I would predict that the mining professionals are most likely to be laid off. However, to ensure that HMS retain the required workforce that would meet the future vision, matrix skills can be utilized. And the matrix skills that should be included are those that have management and production skills, such as production scheduling and control, inventory management, quality control, and inspection, traffic, and materials handling, can be assessed to these groups that are being laid off. So by doing this, HMS is able to retain the mining professionals that have the required set of skills for the operational phase.
Right. So how about the notice and the severance payment?
For the severance payment and notice, it is actually the third step in a redundancy process. And first, I calculated the average salary of mining professionals in Australia, and it is around 160,000 Australian dollars annually.
Right.
And then I divided that number by 52 weeks. So every week, individuals should get around $3,000
Every week.
per
Oh,
week,
wow.
per week salary. And I will use this calculation in my next slide. But I just want to share with you the last step, which is an alternative employment. It is a stage that can be pursued by enterprises that, due to some circumstances, are not able to pay the allocated redundancy amount. However, such application should also need to meet the conditions set by the Fair Work Commission. Okay,
Right.
so this is the forecast of severance payments that I would like to draw your attention to the orange colored columns. So depending on the period of employment, the length of weeks of notice, continuous service, and redundancy pay varies. So for example, if you have joined HMS for less than 2 years, then you will only get shorter notice, shorter continuous service, and also shorter redundancy pay amount. The far right column shows the...
You mean this one?
Yes.
Okay.
The HMS redundancy pay that comes from my previous calculation of average salary per week,
Right.
and then I times it by the number of workers of each periods here. And in total, HMS would have to allocate a budget of 3,300,000
Wow. This
for
is
the
the budget?
redundancy. Yes,
Wow.
it's for the redundancy
Wow.
strategy. That's just an estimation based on this the numbers that have been set by the Fair Work Committee.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So this is the forecast.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, Stacy. So what? Coming to my last question, I would like to ask you, what are the risks for HMS and its redundancy strategy?
Okay, generally different companies will have different risks depending on the nature of the business, the industry, and other factors. And the risk assessment framework consists of each risk being assessed based on low, medium, and high grade for its possibility to appear, severity of risk, and overall risk status. For
Right.
HMS, I have identified 3 risks that may arise from the downsizing, and those are the HMS business become penalized, business reputation are at risk, and also interruptions on HMS overall strategic planning.
Okay.
Now, the most possible and severe risk is the last one.
Oh.
Here, with high.
I
Yeah.
also see there's a contingency plan that you've made.
Yeah. So HMS would really have to find a strategic fit with their current employees and future requirements, and this also means that its organizational strategies that are already devised by the executive teams need to also be supported by its human resources strategy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is what you say, that the last one is the most riskiest
Possible,
option.
yeah, and
Okay.
the most possible one to occur.
Okay, Stacy, thank you so much.
Thank
It's
you.
been a pleasure. Thanks a
Thank
lot.
you.
Good luck for your.
Thank
Okay, so after Stacy and Pranata, our last and final guest would be Stephanie Gunawan, who will be talking about organizational behavior. So please welcome Stephanie.
Hi.
So Stephanie,
Yeah.
as per what Pranata and Stacy said,
Yeah.
what do you think is other key issue involved in this HMS organization?
Yeah. So one of the key issue within the HMS organization is around the organizational behavior. Basically, there is an employee feel bullied from the other employee within the team work itself. And this one employee has reported that the accused employee has sabotaged their work in order to shore up their own positions.
Right.
And I know that maybe this is like one of their efforts to strengthen their position in the organizations due to the economic problem in HMS.
Okay.
But this is very wrong, and we have to take action in this area.
Okay.
And this lead to a low morality standard and also bullying behavior that refer as incivility. Yeah.
Oh.
So it's like a big problem.
Incivility, you mean a very rude, abrupt behavior towards employees?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Right. What are the efforts that your consultancy is putting in this particular issue to solve this problem?
Yeah, so in this case, HMS itself has to focus on the workplace empowerment, where it involves two factors. First one is access to information, and second one is access to support, learning and growth. So basically, in the access to information and support, the organization can create a program where in the program they give a clear expectations of what they like for the acceptable moral standard and civility standard within the organizations, and they also demonstrate their goal and objective of the organizations.
Right.
And a clear standard of moral and civility behavior will help to demonstrate to the employee what is acceptable and what is not acceptable for the organizations, for the employee to follow. And the other thing that they have to provide in the program is that they have to demonstrate and also mention about the workplace bullying policy that is applicable for the employee to follow. And the workplace bullying policy can be based on the code of practice of Safe Work Australia, official Safe Work Australia, that I will show you later the example. And also this will help to minimize the incivility behavior, and it can outline the employee's performance and employee's behavior to be aligned with the organization vision and mission.
Okay.
And also leaders have to be very support in this area and have to put the concept in the core value within the organizations to support this. And these are the example of the workplace bullying policy. As you can see, this is one of the organizations in Australia that have used this bullying policy to prevent any civility behavior. And the employee got to sign this, so it's like official.
So it's basically just so employees feel protected.
Yeah,
when they
yeah,
have
it's
this
like,
policy.
the
Okay.
employee feels
Okay.
safe and they feel protected. It's
Okay.
very good for the
Okay.
employee itself.
Alright.
Yeah.
So Stephanie.
And the second strategy?
Yeah.
Yeah. For the second strategy is the access to learning and grow.
Yeah.
And in this process, this like a training. So the organization provide a training, and in the training, it aims to reduce the survival syndrome as well as reduce the workplace bullying behavior in the organizations. Because not many employees know what is incivility and what the cause of incivility. In fact, they don't know they experience and encounter incivility behavior. And with the education and knowledge that the organization provide, the employee will have different perceptions about the cause of incivility, what is incivility, and they will not underestimate the negative effect of incivility itself. So it can minimize their attempt to do the incivility behavior.
Right.
And for the moral issues, in the training program, we also provide the organization also have to provide better communications and also better support for the employees' difficulty, as well as they have to find gap to develop a solutions for the employee itself. So it will help the employee to reduce their impact of survival syndrome and also low moral issues.
So have you already created a schedule for this particular strategy?
Yeah, sure. So basically, these are the schedule for the following strategies. Oh. Yeah. For the program, it will take 3 months, and it starts from July 2015 to September 2015. Wow. And within the 3 months session, in 1 week, the employee will have 6-hour sessions. In a day, they have 2 hours, so 3 days, they have to follow 3 days of program. And also for the training process, after they aware enough about the moral and security standard of the organizations, they will be supported with internal education, right? And internal training. It will start 1 month after the program, so the employees still have a fresh memory of what they have learned.
And also a break. Maybe.
Yeah, correct. And it starts from November 2015 until April 2016. It requires 6 months. Okay. And also in 1 week they have 8-hour sessions with 2 hours in a day, so 4 days in a week. Yeah. Oh, okay. And for the program, it involves 3 mentors. Since it's 3 months, right? It involves 3 mentors, 2 people from HR department and 1 from HR manager. Since this mentor and all of the activity is within the organization and from the organizations, it just require like not so much cost, like minimize of cost. Right. But for the training, since the organization have to outsource it from the training program from external sources like training organizations. The training organization will send in trainers or experts to train the employee, so that the employee will have a proper way to learn about the important information. And in the training program itself, it will involve like face-to-face interactions, work group, and also both way interaction where the employee get to ask questions and what their difficulties. And it will maybe like involve the total budget like 10,500 USD for the training.
Right, Stephanie, but I agree with what you're saying. Yeah. But I don't wanna. I'm sure you must have done your study, right? But sure. I still wanna ask you: are you aware of the risk involved in this strategy?
Yeah, like every strategy will have a risk involved, right? And for this strategy, there is no guarantee whether like there is a return on investment for the cost of the strategy itself. And also the employee, they can turn both ways. They can be acceptable, or they can be like develop a sense of anger and mistrust. And if this happens, it can reduce their motivations and their engagement in the organizations. Right. And what worse is that I'm afraid that this can be a distraction for the employee, where it can reduce their performance and productivity within the organizations, which can affect badly to the organization itself. Yeah, so this is the risk assessment involved.
Right. Thank you so much, Stephanie. I wish you all the very best for your this thing. Yeah. Thanks a lot. Okay, so just now we spoke to the 3 agents from HMS Consultancy, JPSS, who've been handling the HMS organization situation. And we heard clearly each and every strategy of theirs which they're going to implement in a particular situation. However, I would like the organizations watching this show, I want them to know that redundancy is a bitter truth, and employees have been digesting for the longest time. And Australia, as we can see today, is one of the major examples where redundancy has actually taken place over time. So the government has taken their measures, and they have ensured that the employers, well-informed employee in advance, with the Workplace Relationship Act, as following the Workplace Relationship Act, they have to inform the employees well in advance about the situation of redundancy. But that's the thing. No matter how early that the organization or the government can take measures of informing employees or making sure that they get their pay, end of the day, it's the employee that is losing out still. So with this, I would like to conclude my show saying that employees need to be given a fair situation when it comes down to redundancy, in which it is a win-win situation for both the government, employer, as well as employees. Thank you so much.